Hello, and today we are going to be working on cleaning the buckets that have just been painted. There's a few spots that need to be touched up. As you can see, there's still sections where it's white, but we will be fixing that up here pretty soon. Tonight my goal is basically to get one bucket set up. If you're anything like me, you've got a job and family that need your attention. And so we end up having to just do it one day at a time, sometimes one bucket at a time. So tonight I'll do one. Over the next couple of days I'll do the rest of those 10 buckets. But today we're going to start by using our hole saw, this 2-inch hole saw, to drill 3 holes in this bucket. After those drilling is complete, I'm going to clean the inside with just a gentle detergent. And just clean the inside of the bucket, because you never know what was inside of it before I got it. So I'll be doing that. You'll see the end product of the first bucket, and then I'll probably cut to a clip with all 10 of the buckets washed and prepared. So I'm going to start with drilling using this 2-inch hole saw, and I'm going to go ahead and make 3 holes in this bucket lid. Start by going forward first until it latches in really well, and then proceed from there. So here we go. Alright, so as you can see, we've got the 3 holes there. My intention is for the lettuce to be used on this particular lid. I'm going to go ahead and probably get just a bit of sandpaper and sand that out, so that way it is smooth and not as jagged. It's not going to make that big of a difference, but I definitely don't want all of these little bits of plastic floating around in there. And then once I've completed that, I'll show you what the little baskets are going to look like inside of there. And then after cleaning it, we're going to move on to the next steps. Alrighty, I'm just going to use a bit of plumbing sandpaper, actually, that I had laying around from our last plumbing adventure. So I'm just going to go ahead and just sand these corners, or not corners, but the edges, and just make them nice and smooth. It's not terribly important, but I don't know, I just have a tendency to, if I'm going to do it, I want it to be professional, at least as best as I can, as best as I know how. Alrighty, for cleaning the lid, the top of the lid specifically, you can see some of the dust and stuff from just having sawn through the plastic piece. I'm just going to clean it with a damp paper towel, because anything abrasive, I'm finding, even a jagged fingernail, is removing paint. So I'm going to try to do the very least of that I can, especially as it is this white lid. So I'm just using a damp paper towel, try to get up some of the dust off the top. Again, the top is not quite as important, and the other thing is too, after you've harvested your crop, you want to wash it anyway. Alrighty, I'm just going to put a couple drops of this dish soap in there and scrub with, I'm not going to do anything too terribly crazy, just something I picked up from the dollar store, just a little scrub brush for the inside. I'm also going to get the bottom of the lid, and then we will have ourselves a clean bucket. As you can see, there is paint on the bottom side. I'm not too terribly worried about it, especially because it will never come in direct contact with this part of the lid. In fact, any of the water that we're going to be putting in there is not going to come in contact with this, because the water will be at least 2 inches off of the off of the lid into the bucket, and it'll only continue to get lower and lower. So one thing I am noticing though, a lot of chips coming out of this. So this spray paint, maybe I didn't let it set long enough, but one thing for sure is that I will have to keep a close eye on how the paint is handling. Make sure that, especially for the buckets, not as much for the lids, but especially for the buckets, that I'm keeping a close eye for potential light seepage. All right, so now we are going to cover a lid using this, it's called Reflectix. Basically it's insulation that is, I bought 16 by 25, so that way it would cover quite a bit. And what I'm going to do is set it upside down, and then I am going to trace around the outside with a Sharpie. And then I'm also going to do the same for the holes. And just because the Sharpie is not showing up super strong, I'll just give it a little extra scribble there. There we go. That should give us, if I turn it up a little bit here, our pattern that we're going to cut. I'm going to cut to the inside of the line for the perimeter of the lid, the outside of the holes, just to make sure that the cup has enough space to slide through, and I'll show you that here in just a bit. So let's get cutting. I'm going to go ahead and cut the little circles for the grow cups. All right, so we have our now reflective material set up that will also help with blocking the light. You can see it's pretty thick. So when we set it on top of this guy, I'll end up setting it up like that. What I have here are just the 2-inch NetPots. And what these are going to do are going to hold the rock wool and the seed inside, not the seed, but also the growth, now that once it's been germinated. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to pull 3 of these out, and I'll leave the links for this in the description. Without the insulate here, you can see it just slides right in with that 2-inch drill. Now it's going to be a little snug, but that's okay. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to have the insulate be set like so, and then drop my baskets down inside. It also provides, right, instead of having to tape this thing down now, all I have to do is just set those babies in there. So it is all set. So what we've got here is a 15-gallon tote. I just picked this up from Ace Hardware. Just like our 5-gallon buckets, I want to make sure that it is dark and that it is able to block the light. Our only area of concern is going to be this lid, but just like again with the 5-gallon buckets, we will cover it with some insulation. With 15 gallons, I will probably do 2 cucumbers. So I'm going to drill a hole here and probably here, and that way the plants can crawl up the lattice that I'll set up in the tent. But for this one, I didn't want to get the type of lid. I'm sure you've seen it, that's got the 2 different parts that kind of open in the middle. The reason being is that that just creates areas for light seepage on the side. But also, I just wanted something that I could, when I'm checking the root systems, just lift in one spot and not have to try to lift 2 different areas. It's a matter of personal preference. I did find that this plastic is slightly thicker in the lid than the ones that they had available at the time that I was doing the shopping. So I'm going to go ahead and drill 2 holes. Another thing that you can do, and I might do this in the future potentially, is have additional holes. So maybe you'll run 4 plants at the same time in this tote. Obviously you'll be doing different plants than just the cucumbers. And then you could just cover those holes while you're growing for that other plant. But because it's easier to just drill holes again in the future, I'm going to wait to do that until that time. So I'm going to go ahead and drill these holes, and then we'll have all 10 buckets cleaned. I'll have 6 that are ready to go for my leafy greens, and then also this one for my cucumbers. Okay, so we have a total of 10 of these 5-gallon buckets washed and prepared. There are a total of 4 of them, obviously, that you don't see here. Those I am saving for once I get into some of the other vegetables. These 6 in particular are going to be for our lettuce, our kale, and our cabbage. So the bucket with the 1 hole is going to be for the cabbage because it's a heavy drinker. But then over here, I've got for our cucumbers, we're going to use this bucket. So first step for me has been getting all of these buckets set up. So that way, pretty much all I have to do is add in the nutrients and then the germinated seed into the baskets or the net cups. So as we get into the next videos, first thing I'm going to do is set up our grow tent and little grow shelf. And then the next thing will be germinating seeds, and then after that, the journey into plants. So I will hope to see you on the next video.